Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. Today we're going to be talking about John Brennan. Now, that's a name that some people may remember from about a decade ago, but most people have completely forgotten about. Yet he said something yesterday that was absolutely critical. It's important for us to understand because of what it means for America going forward. And I don't think a lot of people are noticing that. Now, before we get to that, if this is the first time that you're seeing our program, hello. And also, I want to say we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We talk to you simultaneously on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, taking your chats, your texts, your calls about the issues that matter to all of us, affecting everyone in the world. And we look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now let's talk about John Brennan. So yesterday, John Brennan was on MSNBC Deadline, and he made a statement that is both reinforcing a trend that we've been seeing for quite some time now, but also has a deep impact going forward for our nation. And it's very, very troubling because it's so insightful. And you'll see what I mean in one second. But I want you to see exactly what we're talking about here. Okay, so we're going to play this for you. This is from MSNBC. It's their Deadline program, and John Brennan was on. We're going to play it completely in full context so you can see what we're going to talk about.
To underscore Claire's point, I mean, that's why we started with Katie Benner's great new reporting about the investigation into police officer. It renders, at best hypocritical, at worst cynical and false, any notion that the Republicans care about the lives and the safety of law enforcement.
Well, I must say, to Claire's point, I'm increasingly embarrassed to be a white male these days, and light of what I see of my other white males saying. But it just shows that with very few exceptions, like Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, there are so few Republicans in Congress who value truth, honesty, and integrity. And so they'll continue to gaslight the country the way that Donald Trump did. And the fact.
So that's what he said. And that's the part that we're going to be focusing on. So the key points to take away from this, and what I want to address here, is truth, integrity, being embarrassed to be born a certain color. These are critical things. These are absolutely important to our nation. And we're hearing this a lot, especially in our colleges, especially from professors talking to college students today, telling them that they should be embarrassed, that they are fundamentally evil or wrong, or should be embarrassed for the color of their skin, depending on the color that they have. This is a problem. This is a major problem. Now, John Brennan is the former CIA director. He's the former head of Homeland Security under President Obama. He was a very powerful man. And John Brennan has got problems. Now, if you look this up, you're going to see this isn't trending. News media is not touching this. They don't want to address what he said and what it means. It's just not trending at all. But it is something that has been picked up and being paid attention to overseas. The Daily Mail has it with the ex-CIA director, John Brennan, says he is increasingly embarrassed to be a white male during TV debate on Republican response to U.S. Capitol riot. Can you imagine that? This is what internationally they're talking about. Internationally, it's a ex-CIA director saying it's bad to be white, that he has a problem. He is increasingly not, and this is a key thing. He didn't say he's embarrassed now. He's increasingly embarrassed. So he's well into the progressive mantra that to be white is to be intrinsically evil or wrong or bad. That there is a problem with being born a certain skin color. And as we've gone over before, if you just changed one word, if you said, instead of increasingly embarrassed to be a white male, what if it was increasingly embarrassed to be an Asian male or a Hispanic male or a black male or a black Jew or to be Jewish or to be Christian or to be gay or to be transgendered, you would have a problem with that. Most people would have a problem with that because that is a racist statement. And right there, he should be called out. We should hear the news media calling him out and saying, hey, John Brennan, this is a problem because you are saying, you are promoting an idea that certain groups of people are better than other groups of people. That if you are embarrassed to be this, there is something wrong with it intrinsically. And the only thing that happened intrinsically is he was born from a pair of parents and his skin is paler than mine. No one should ever apologize for the color of their skin. Your character is an entirely different question, but your color of skin is you. That's just what you were born with. It's like saying I'm embarrassed to be tall or short or fat or skinny. You are what you are. And no one should qualify and quantify what you are based on your skin color and how much of a tan that you have. That is so inherently, absolutely, fundamentally wrong. And we should acknowledge that and we should be speaking about it. And the news media should be filled with people from the right and the left saying there is a problem here, and the problem is John Brennan's. The problem is the idea that anyone would say that they need to be embarrassed by the color of their skin because of their birthright, something they have no control over. And even if you did, you shouldn't be forced or made to feel like something is inferior to another person. I would think in this time, in the 2020s, at this time in the world, after the 60s movement, people like Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Gandhi, after these wonderful examples across the world, I would like to believe at this point in time, we wouldn't hear people saying that someone is inferior or lesser or has a reason to be embarrassed based on the color of their skin. But it seems that Democratic politics loves this. They feed into this. As we saw with the host of Deadline, she was laughing. This was comical to her. She thought it was the greatest thing. Wow, that's so funny that you hate being you, that you have an intrinsic problem with the color of skin that you have, that you were born this way. And again, I say that John Brennan, when he was saying this, and as she was laughing away about it, he mentioned he's increasingly embarrassed. Increasing. So he's been embarrassed for a long time for being born the skin that he has. That's intrinsically bad. But it gets a little bit worse. There's more of a problem to this than just that. And I have to say, one of the problems is, if we look over at Twitter, this isn't trending. And it's not something I searched for a credible blue check left-leaning response to John Brennan, just John Brennan on Twitter. And of course, his comments were the biggest thing being spoken about under Twitter on John Brennan. But the closest thing I can get to is Glenn Greenwald, who is definitely left-leaning. And his comment was, it was clear over the last 4 years that some of the worst people in America, the worst people, notice he doesn't say the worst color, the worst skin color, the worst gender, the worst identity, the worst people based on their character. And he goes, John Brennan, Bill Kristol, Bush Cheney operatives, the Lincoln Project goons, Andrew Cuomo, anyone connected with the CIA and FBI were being venerated in the name of anti-Trump. That these horrible people, this is his list from the left of horrible people, people who have done terrible things. That's John Brennan, first on the list. And you might say to yourself, well, Mike, how bad could John Brennan be? Well, if we go back in time and we look at, and this is from The Atlantic in August of 2014, does John Brennan know too much for Obama to fire him? The first thing we start off with is John Brennan was lying to the government, to the country, about the CIA monitoring congressional committees without their knowledge. And in addition to that, there's the fact that Brennan has been willing to, and I'm quoting The Atlantic here, Brennan has been willing to lie about these drone strikes to hide ugly realities. For example, he stated in the summer of 2011 that there had been 0 collateral deaths from covert U.S. drone strikes in the previous year, an absurd claim that has been decisively debunked. Really? So when we hear John Brennan talking about truth and integrity that he wants to hear from people, he himself is not included in that list. He himself is a proven factual liar. He has lied to the government. He has lied to the American people on matters as significant as spying on our government, as well as in killing individuals overseas with drone strikes. This is a big deal. And it's not just anybody besides just regular Americans. John Brennan was involved with the drone strikes against U.S. citizens. He was part of that conversation. He helped put together that doctrine that would allow, as we mentioned here in our article that we had written, and this was in February 6th of 2013, this essentially is an example of the 2011 drone attack in Yemen, which killed Anwar al-Awlaki and Samir Khan, each an American citizen without indictment or even charged with a crime, but were alleged to be al-Qaeda members. That's right, Obama, the Obama administration, which included a key figure of John Brennan, put together a memo, a policy that they would go out and they could kill American citizens without ever having proof of a crime, without ever spending a day in jail, without even so much as that individual being arrested. They can kill them. They did kill them. And it's so bad that based on the memo, when we reviewed that, we noticed that if an American in, say, Italy were to unknowingly aid al-Qaeda, as an example, in a series of financial transactions via a dummy corporation, the citizen neither has the means nor reason to question, does that qualify? Can they be killed by the Obama administration with John Brennan in control? And the answer is yes, an American citizen could be killed without knowledge of a crime or aid to al-Qaeda under these circumstances. Time to duck in Italy. That's the quality of John Brennan. That's the man we're talking about. That's not integrity. That's not truth and honesty. That's not being forthright. And if you want to talk about gaslighting America, telling American citizens that his drone strikes did not kill collateral damage, which means civilians, that is a lie. That is you're talking about gaslighting. You're doing what Andrew Cuomo did. What Andrew Cuomo did is kill 16,000 people, and he lied about it to protect himself politically. Guess what? So's John Brennan. He did that in 2013. And he did it in 2011. The man is a proven liar. And he has violated American citizens' rights as well as rights of other individuals across the world with drone strikes and other actions. So we're not talking about any angel here. And so if because of that, John Brennan decided, well, I hate myself, and if he said he was increasingly embarrassed about being himself, a male, a Democrat, maybe you could see that. But that's not what he said. And you may say to me, well, Mike, why is this such a big deal? I mean, they were talking about what was going on in Washington, D.C., and they're saying that people were lying. Well, remember, he's highlighting the wonderful honesty of people like the New York Times. The New York Times that actively misrepresented the facts and lied to the American people. When they published in one of their articles about the DC riots, on Wednesday, pro-Trump supporters attacked that citadel of American democracy, i.e. the Capitol, overpowered Mr. Sicknick, 42, and struck him in the head with a fire extinguisher, according to two of the law enforcement officials. With a bloody gash in his head, Mr. Sicknick was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support. He died on Thursday evening. Not one word of what I just read to you, which was reported by the New York Times initially on January 8th, is true. It is a complete fabrication. It isn't even close to the truth, as we have found out. And in fact, and these are the people that John Brennan is trying to hold up as models of truth and integrity. So integral, there was so much integrity at the New York Times and the rest of the news media that they quietly updated their report and changed its content without telling the public about it, just making an addition and correction. And this is the actual article made by Katie Brenner and Adam Goldman. There it is. Sorry, it's the article by Mark Santora, Megan Specia, and Mike Baker. Yeah, these people, this had to be rewritten. The New York Times had to retract it and had to rewrite it because it is wrong. Mr. Sicknick never got struck by a fire extinguisher or any other object that could be seen on any videotape of the entire event. So to say that someone is insensitive, when we hear that NBC, MSNBC, and John Brennan are taking a victory lap, when they say that, well, Republicans are horrible and evil because they highlighted the fact that the media lied, that there was a lie put out there to cause American citizens to change their feelings about this. This is what he's talking about as being heroic, being honorable, having integrity. And this is why he hates being white. Because he wants to promote the lies and fabrications of the New York Times. There's something else. There's another component to this before I get to that. And I want you to understand, it doesn't end just there. And again, I don't care. You can think whatever you want about the DC riots. It doesn't matter. What does matter is what he is saying. He is promoting lies and a lack of integrity, a lack of honesty. And he is trying to say that this is the good thing, that this is the right thing. Quoting 1984, paraphrasing 1984, the book, that these truth mongers should be trusted and more people should abide by this and go by the approved news, the approved messaging, rather than having any independent thought. And that if you don't do that, well, that's because you love yourself too much. You love being who you are, being an independent American citizen or a member of the world and having your own thoughts. When you should be, in fact, hating yourself, self-loathing yourself, because based on the color of your skin. That kind of thought, that you should hate someone because of the color of their skin, and only believing the approved messaging, makes things like this happen, which happened in July 8th of 2020. This is what happened. This is out of Newsweek. What was the title? Sequoia Turner's parents attack those who shot 8-year-old girl in Atlanta. You know what's really interesting about this? They don't want to talk about Black Lives Matter. It was members of Black Lives Matters that shot the 8-year-old child, not the police, not the government, not law enforcement, the people of Black Lives Matters, the autonomous zone or the potential autonomous zone that they're trying to create and defund the police, killed an 8-year-old child because their parents, not knowing where to turn because the news media isn't being clear about what these people are doing and what their intentions are, they made a wrong turn into a danger zone and their child was shot for it. And see, and that's the danger that we're talking about that comes from John Brennan. That comes from self-loathing. That comes from, oh, I'm embarrassed, increasingly embarrassed to be white. That's what John Brennan said. That's the problem. Because when you start creating tiers of individuals based on nothing more than their identity, the gender identity politics, that people of this skin color are lesser than people of this other skin color, that we have to do things because of people being one skin color or another, well, that promotes the events that we saw throughout the entire summer of 2020, when we saw dozens of people and half a dozen children killed by BLM. The example of Sequoia Turner in Atlanta is only one. There are several others. An 8-year-old child killed because of BLM, because they believe that their racial politics are more important than anyone else's life. Because people like John Brennan are increasingly embarrassed to be white. Not embarrassed, increasingly embarrassed that they have a problem being born white and that there is something intrinsically wrong with that process. There is a problem there. And it gets even worse because we see this, and this has been going on for a while. This is a picture from November 17th of 2019. And in this moment, we're seeing, this is a picture of then City Councilman, Binghamton City Councilman, Conrad Taylor, as he joined in a mob attack, 200 individuals attacking 3 conservatives because they were Republican on a college campus. And this was okay. This was approved. No, the left was applauding this incident. That did become national news. Binghamton University, an attack of a mob of 200 progressives attacking 3 students just because they have a different point of view. And among those students is former City Councilman Conrad Taylor, an individual who we have interviewed before, who has admitted on record and directly to us that he is also, like John Brennan, embarrassed to be white, that he apologizes for being born white. He has personally apologized to me in front of witnesses that he is sorry to be white. Something that he would not repeat again after that moment because of his political career, but is more than happy to stand in a mob of 200 progressives to attack 3 conservative students because he doesn't like what they have to say, because it wasn't approved thought. And this is a way to stand up for his embarrassment of being white, of his anger with himself, his self-loathing. It is these examples of self-loathing that we are seeing. And when we see that on national news media, when we see this on MSNBC, and we see that the host of the program, that the face and the representative of MSNBC is laughing, is cheerful, is giddy, that an ex-CIA director is saying that he's embarrassed to be white, that there is a problem with being white, that there is an inherent negative because of the color of someone's skin, then we should be troubled, because this is what's being taught to our children. This is what they are being programmed with. This is what they're trying. This is the wokeness that is being taught. Joe Walsh, on Twitter has been talking about recently today. He was talking about we need to teach wokeness to our children. This is the wokeness they're talking about. To hate yourself, to hate people of different colors, of different skin tones, for the mere fact that they were born. This is the danger, and that leads to the mob attacks that we saw in 2019, which leads to the murder of an 8-year-old child in Atlanta in 2020. John Brennan is wrong. And I will say this very clearly. You should never, ever hate the way you were born. If you were born white, black, male, female, gay, straight, I don't care. Don't hate yourself for that. Don't allow anyone else to hate you for that. And if someone hates you for those reasons, they have a significant problem, not you. You don't need to be like Rachel Dolans and so many others that say, well, I'm a trans black person. I have to become black because being white is bad. No, I don't have to change my color of skin. I don't have to change my gender, my sexual preference. No, just because someone else wants it to be that way, because they like it, because it gives them power. No, that is wrong. That is inherently wrong. It is inherently racist, sexist, ageist. It is inherently an ism. And just because it's being approved of by MSNBC and the major news media and a political faction that happens to be in power at this moment does not make it right. I don't know. Maybe I get emotional about this, but I find it to be critical. And one of the reasons, and I've said this before in the program, I'll say it again. Why do I find this to be so important to talk about? Because I have brothers and sisters that are as light-skinned as John Brennan, that they are white, and they're my brothers and sisters, and I love them to death. I love their children, and I would never, ever treat them differently based on the fact that their skin color is lighter than my own. How dare they? How dare anyone say that? And I will never subscribe to a point of view that says they are lesser or should be treated lesser because their skin tone is lighter than my own. And that's what we are being asked to accept. When we hear John Brennan say, oh, it's okay to be embarrassed and to be increasingly embarrassed by being white and male, there is an increasing problem there. That is his problem. And when he projects it to others and people watch the news media and say, well, this must be true. Otherwise, the news media wouldn't publish it. They wouldn't tell us that if it wasn't true, if there wasn't some basis of fact and reason to it. And when they are lying to us and when it is factually incorrect, it damages us as a society, as a community, as a nation, and I reject it. And I think we all should. But if you found this to be interesting, if you have liked it, please do share it. Please do subscribe so we can continue this exercise in free speech. If you disagree with me, please, I look forward to seeing your comments. Or even if you agree, I look forward to seeing your comments to tell us what you think about this. And most of all, we hope that on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will join us for our live stream to talk about this and many other issues because we believe in the First Amendment. We thank you and we hope you're going to be well.